Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager, and this is episode 59. Pourchaire has regained some patience for negotiations, so let's try again. I think we were awfully close to getting it signed before anyway. Let's hope it also has retained where we were at with contract negotiations, and it has, though I think we left off at 2.2 million, so we wanted to come up a bit from there. We'll try 2.8 this time around, which is still a couple million below where we're at with Albon. Still not happy with the amount, the 2.8 overall contract declined. Do we have enough to... No. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer for the next offer. We're getting up there. It looks like we're going to end up probably settling on 3.5 or 4 million, I would imagine, to get him signed. But that's certainly doable for a guy we're looking to hang on to long term, and we're going to add 4 years with that contract. And next up for us is Hungary. Albon managed to get on the podium there, coming relatively close to the win. I mean, he was 14 seconds behind Hamilton, so second was really all we were in for, though. That was Alonso, Bottas, both in the top 5 in the Alfa Romeo. Haas there. A lot of, I think the key contenders had really bad races, and I want to say that it was in the rain. Pourchaire had a really rough day on that one, barely finishing on the lead lap, nearly getting lapped by his teammate down in 17th. Let's see if we can get a better performance from Pourchaire this time. I'm not sure we're going to replicate anything with Albon, especially when we are in for... Ooh, hello. We're in for a wet Sunday. Okay, we've got a chance after all.
The Hungaroring is abuzz with excitement as Formula One returns to Hungary for another round. We first came here in 1986 after construction on this purpose-built motorsport facility was completed. The Hungaroring is one challenging succession of corners and turns. With few straights, it's affectionately known as the go-kart circuit. Drivers will have to find a proper rhythm to make the most of the layout, and for cars, low-speed downforce will be paramount. We're about halfway through the season now, and there's still plenty of time for everything to change. All eyes are on the teams and how they tackle the rest of the year. Stay right here, because we're just getting started.
I would have loved racing here at the beginning of the season when top of the charts when it came to cornering. Now, we're hanging on until we get those upgrades to get us back at or near the top once again. So I'm not sure that we're going to be looking too good, as we're very much middle of the road. But our weakest area is not going to be as exposed at this track, so maybe we can get both cars not only in the points, but at least competitive and maybe cracking the top 5 or something. But heavy rain for the race on Sunday could make things wide open, and you never know with that one. Normally, we play strategy pretty well when it comes to wet races, but they seem to have made it trickier of late to kind of get that balance right. But if we're in for heavy rain, that means wet conditions and probably not variable conditions. And it's the variable conditions where I tend to be a little more maybe neutral when it comes to those setup calls, because we do get caught out from time to time on changing track conditions. But if it's just straight heavy rain and wet, timing it right on when to switch over, we tend to benefit from that and do a bit better in wet conditions, but we'll see. In what's becoming a worrying trend, we are on the outside of the top 10 here in Q1. We did a banker lap. We're doing a second run on the same set. Pourchaire somehow comes out right behind Albon, which means he's probably not going to have a very good time. But we barely get out. Pourchaire ends up better than Albon. But 14th and 15th is all we managed in Q1, and that is extremely worrying. As well, it's not worrying. I mean, we've seen it. It's written in the cards. The go-kart track and the advantage we had in cornering is gone. So this is where we're going to be at for the next few races. So I suppose we need to just get on with it and hope that we can even get into the points for the race. Heading out for our banker lap. Sainz, we get out of the way just in time before Sainz comes out. Bottas is ahead of us, but I think he'll get started on his lap before we reach him, and that is the case. So we'll get a clean lap in. Pourchaire just ahead of Albon at this point. We are going to go ahead and use the fresh set again for the second run, looking like, we're going to be at the back end of the top 15 anyway, and probably not going to see Q3, so not conserving tires for that. So far so good though, not last. Whether we make Q3 or not is looking very, very tight. I mean, we're talking about less than 100th of a second from being out for Albon, and two 100ths of a second out for Porsche. So we are going to take things very, very seriously for this one. And let's go ahead and start getting ourselves out there. Albon into the mix as well. This is the one we're going to actually end up riding on board with, because I just have that sneaky feeling that it's going to be really tight. And we'll be lucky to get one car into Q3. Maybe neither. Maybe both, based on that first lap. Okay, Porsche comes around the final corner to start his lap. We'll see how he's looking. Fresh set of tires for both. And you can see there's a couple cars anyway that are using used. Vettel's using used, so there's one. There's one that we can count on to, well, mess this up. But Porsche, yellow in Sector 1, is not able to put in a better time than his first go. Albon is quicker, though. See how Sector 2 turns out. Guan Yu Zhou definitely has a better time. Bottas, Alonso, Norris all have better times. Porsche is better in Sector 2.
Was that a lockup on the
Albon
track?
has been bumped out. Porsche is now on the bubble, as we have a number of cars. I think Alonso is the one who just moved up big time. Vettel's done. Does not improve his time. So Vettel's P14. Verstappen completely self-destructed on his. Porsche does not improve. He stays on the bubble. Bottas bumps him out. So Porsche is out. What about Albon? Albon's still on his lap. He was yellow in Sector 2, so he's only improved in one area, worse in the other, so he's going to need a good Sector 3 to see a better time. And, oh gosh, Norris just went purple, so we're down to 14th. Porsche is going to start either 13th or 14th. Albon does improve Sector 3, but does not improve his time. His Sector 2 was that bad. Did not improve. Neither improve, and we are out in Q2.
It's time for the final touches here on the grid, ahead of today's race.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. This weekend, Red Bull displayed real promise during qualifying, but will they fulfill that potential by the time they reach the checkered flag? And the sky is looking grey and cloudy today. An effective tyre strategy could prove very valuable as the race plays out.
Well, as we can see, the crowd here at the Hungary ring are ready and waiting. So let's get this show underway.
The expected strategy for this one is going to come up with one questionable move on whether it's the right one to make or not. Starting on the softs, finishing on the mediums, no problem. What to do in between, through the rain period, is the big question mark. The rain's supposed to be light initially, hitting somewhere around lap 12 to 13, and then somewhere around lap 18 to 19, it's supposed to intensify significantly, easily to full wet conditions. But this looks like definite intermediate conditions, lasting for about 6 laps. So 6 laps on the intermediates, flat out, how much time do you gain during that stretch? Or do you go straight to the wets, have them overheat massively, and probably degrade and probably not make it through that next period? So my assumption is we go on to the intermediates and then just drive hard. Don't worry about tire life or anything like that. Go flat out, make up some time for that handful of laps, and put on the wets, but then go straight from wets to the dry compound as the track dries out once the rain stops. It looks like it's going to get lighter. It's probably going to get down to intermediate conditions briefly, but then get back to full wet. That's where you're going to see some of the cars make that changeover and get caught out and lose time. So let's hope that that is the case. I think for that one, you want to just stay on the wets and then switch to the dries.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Looking now at the Williams. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. And then we've got Alex Albon. They're in the back half of the pack, so they'll need to work hard if they want a podium finish. And we're just moments away now. And here we go, with the Hungarian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Alright, we're going aggressive today. Let's see if it works out in the end. Will we see driver mistakes? Will I have made the right call in going from intermediates to wets only a handful of laps later? I'm assuming most of the field will actually end up doing the same, so just the being aggressive is what's going to set us apart from the field. As we see both cars going up the inside of the AlphaTauri in a 3-wide set as we go through.
That's great job. Great job.
3, I believe that is officially turn 3. I think they call this turn 2.
Williams there gaining several places in one go.
Pourchaire's counted as gaining 2, but that's just because he's ahead of Albon. It's quite unusual that they both passed on the start here. Let's keep that pressure up as they try to make their way forward. I think this is going to end up being a pretty quick race, at least in the dry. We'll move quick. We'll see what tactically is going to happen when it gets wet. And if things play out as we expect them to. For now, Albon's up to P10. Pourchaire hanging out in P13. So Albon has quickly made his way through the field. Pourchaire gets to the inside of the McLaren. That is Bottas. And he will complete that move. That's up to P12 for him. Gasly now in between him and Albon. And Albon is on the rear of Alonso, right on the gearbox. He's quite close to him as we check in there. He's having a look now. Not quite able to get up beside, but he's going to get a second go at it, and he is now up beside Alonso. And Pourchaire gets around Gasly. Both making their way quickly through the field. DRS enabled. We're going to keep right on pushing for now until we have no battery to push. And we might back off a little bit. That is Albon, who is up beside Ocon now, looking for P8 and getting P8. Soft compound working out really well for us so far. I'm guessing a lot of the field is not on the soft. There's some, definitely some. Nobody opting for the hard, so everybody at least had enough common sense to realize that there was wet weather coming. Albon now up beside Ricardo, and he's looking like he's going to complete the move on the second Alpine. Quite done deal yet. Sort of getting blocked off by the Mercedes at the moment, making it a little harder. And there's Russell ahead. Pourchaire overtakes Alonso and gets himself into the points as well, P10. And Albon still battling with Ricardo and unable to finish the move thanks to the positioning of the Mercedes. And just as we finally have the opening that we needed, that one didn't come together. But now Ricardo goes around Russell, and then we get up beside Russell. And we finish the move on Russell, or is Ricardo going to return the favor and block us as well? No, that is move complete.
Good, that's good.
Neutral now for Pourchaire as well. Pourchaire still actually down a spot, P11. Albon, after getting around, is 1 second down, so there's no DRS for that little mini train. It's so close, you could definitely get back in contact. I think Pourchaire, we're going to end up having to double stack. So let's go ahead and settle in with Pourchaire while continuing on aggressively. Albon clearly has the better position on the track itself as he tries to complete the move and get up to P6. But with his teammate less than 2 seconds behind, we might as well get him in a better state. Again, 1.4 seconds behind, and then we're stuck on neutral, so this is going to constantly go back and forth, I think. Unfortunately, not having contact with those guys in front. And then that becomes a double overtaken scenario where both Alpines get back around. So we've been
That's a good overtake from Alpine.
nose to tail with those Alpines repeatedly. We moved ahead of both. We moved back behind one. We moved ahead of that one. Now we moved back behind both again. Gasly losing ground on Alonso, so 12th place on down. We're falling back a bit. Schumacher as well. Back off on the gas a little bit, hold that position, and then try to get forward. As it looks like Ricciardo might have got back within a second. Looks like our train has come back to the front train, and that is obviously a very good thing. Right, Albin, what can you do? You've already got up beside him once, and apparently burned through half your battery without making any progress whatsoever. Now he gets up beside the Alpine, I believe. Oh, Guinea tucks back in.
Further rain expected.
Okay,
Yes.
it's coming. Possibly in four minutes.
Good job.
By chance of rain at that point. And yeah, just like that, he's burned through the battery in one lap
And a new
without
position,
making any
just gained
progress
by Williams.
whatsoever. And Pourchaire has overtaken Russell, so now Pourchaire is right behind us. So now we're screwed on the double stack. And Pourchaire in a much better state, both fuel and battery-wise. And does not get DRS. So our lack of pace showed on that lap as Pourchaire was within DRS range, and going aggressive neutral falls off. Looks like rain's starting to fall. Yes, it is. Rain is falling. 0.4 millimeters already. Very quickly going, even though it's still showing cloudy and that we're still a couple minutes away, so it's coming earlier than we thought, which is almost a good thing because it's going to make more sense for being on the intermediates, and it's already clear time to be on the intermediates. The 2.5 seconds that Pourchaire, who's behind again, is going to lose from double stacking. I think he's going to lose more from waiting.
Box this lap.
Yeah,
Okay,
0.9.
box.
Those who stay out are going to lose more than the 3 seconds of the double stack. 1.2 already. So both cars peel off. A lot of front runners as well. Norris into the pits. Leclerc goes into the race lead. And how ugly is this thing going to get? We've got Albin. Albin is already out? No, Albin's just now coming in. 2.6. He's going to pull out immediately, which is good, so we don't lose a ton of time. Pourchaire, 2.7. He's going to sit. He's going to sit. Still sitting. Pourchaire, still sitting. Still sitting. But we won't let him back on. Pourchaire is still sitting. Finally, he is the last car out. He was ahead of Albin. If he would have held the position, if he would have stayed within 1 second of those in front of him, he would have been fine. But instead, not only does he end up behind his teammate and forced into the back end of that double stack, but then he sits on pit road for what felt like minutes.
A-fan.
It wasn't. But he goes from 9th position down to 18th. Now, there are guys who stayed out, and there are 6 of them. Most of them went for the full wets.
Keep doing what
Surprising.
you're doing.
But we flew past Signs. Signs was ahead of us. We've gotten past Botas now.
And there's an overtake.
And here
from
comes
Williams.
that second group as Albin is getting blocked right now by Guan Yu Zhou.
Just use the
Oh,
overtake.
he's crawling.
Yes.
Crawling around. Let's go, Albin. Speed up. Will he be in the race lead? That hold up from Guan Yu Zhou is going to make that a lot more complicated, but he is easily going to be into the race lead. Worked out for one. Not for the other.
Just do lift
And
and
he's
coast.
going to continue aggressively on.
Yep,
Porcher, meanwhile, is up to P17. He's got traffic. Lots of traffic. So Porcher is now back up to P11, so it's not terrible, but it was definitely a different
And a
scenario,
new
wasn't
position
it?
just gained by Williams.
We have six others, plus the two of us, that have opted to go with the intermediates. We'll see how much better our pace is compared to those on the wets for the 8 laps or so before it's time to pit again. Albin, who is behind Signs, that's where gaps can be open. Signs 12.5 seconds back now in less than a lap. From 8.5 at the start of the last lap. We'll see where we're at as we begin the next. But it's clear right now that we are gaining rapidly. 14 seconds from 8.5. So that is 5.5 seconds per lap times 6 laps. Flag sector 3. Somebody has crashed. I didn't see it. It must have been in front of Porcher.
There's been a crash. Sounds like a single car.
Botas
Let's
was
have a
the
look.
one who crashed.
Now we see
We had
Valtteri
already
Bottas.
passed him, right? He was behind us.
Dear me, they won't
the
have been
intermediates,
expecting
too.
that.
And he was 18, by the way. Making his way through traffic has cost him 7 additional seconds. You see he's still losing time right now at 25.2. He lost 15 seconds. And track has gone full wet already. Track has gone full wet. So now is the time. But look at Albin's position. And he's going to come out maybe, around P6. Porcher's going to pit as well. This happened 2 laps early. The other happened 1 lap early, which meant we got 1 less lap on it than we hoped. But these guys are all on intermediates. So Signs is the first one that's already on at 25 seconds down. Our position's going to be pretty good. I think we made absolutely the right call. $12 seconds. 12 seconds still. And we can go aggressive for this run. So he didn't just keep second or barely
Vettel was
first.
just pitted.
He kept a healthy advantage. 6.7 now that they're both progressed a bit away from pit road. 2.6. Porcher is going to come out in P14, looks like.
You can afford to drop back.
Again, really missed out on,
Okay, copy.
on that 15 seconds that we lost, plus the additional time trying to make our way through the pack. But it's far from over yet, and we certainly have
Okay, back off.
a moderate tire advantage over many of the cars. Stroll still has not pit. Track is 7.4 millimeters. This is stop the race levels. Alright, so Albin has a healthy lead and has actually pulled away from Signs a little bit by continuing to drive semi-aggressive For now, though, that gap is holding with his semi-aggressive driving as we have a yellow flag in Sector 2. It is Hamilton has crashed. Lap 19. Porsche 3 seconds behind Gasly, even though they pit together about a second apart. So it looks like we lost a couple seconds on pit road, but we are closing that gap slowly on Gasly now. He is close to Magnussen, and there's potential to go forward again and make our way back up into the points. If we're lucky, as I was mentioning pre-race, there's a period where the rain is supposed to lighten up quite a bit. The track may dry out enough that somebody opts to go back to the intermediates. It looks like Stroll has pit, by the way, so everybody should be on the wets now. And if a handful of cars opt to switch to the intermediates, they're going to lose a ton of time because the rain will be back and heavy and back to wet conditions soon after. So we may yet see 4 or 5 cars with those individual mistakes that are going to see them go, strategy mistakes that are going to see them go backwards. But in the meantime, Albon is definitely in an ideal position, and Porsche now less than 2 seconds behind Gasly and now Magnussen as Gasly made it around.
And a new position
try to
just
refill
gained
that
by
battery
Williams.
slightly. When we get up to Gasly, he's going to be a tougher pass. Obviously, both of us got around Magnussen pretty easily. I think the Haas is slowest or second slowest car this weekend, and we're now less than a second behind from 3 seconds back. So we've pulled 2 seconds back in 2 laps. So we're about a second a lap faster, which means overtake is definitely possible, but won't be. Meanwhile, Albon out to 8.8 now, and again, as we've added another 0.6, Perez has closed up on him by about 0.5. So, gap is holding. Verstappen was only a second back, though, and he's almost... Fuel's not looking bad for either one. 1.2, 1.3 down, but it's only lap 24. We're roughly a third of the way to the race. We drove aggressively early on and added to the deficit. Now, going neutral, we seem to be making it up fairly quickly. Of course, your pace is a little bit less in the rain, and so you actually recover faster in the rain because you can't drive as hard. Therefore, you're not burning as much fuel. Okay, ERS is full. Let's go ahead and go back to neutral. Try to close up on Gasly, who pulled out by 0.6, but meanwhile, we've pulled out away from Magnussen a bit as well. Alright, and we have finally caught up to Gasly, so it's time to push and use the overtake to try to get around him. And meanwhile, the gap to Sainz is almost 10 seconds now. We are up beside Gasly. I think we'll have it done here, and we do. Less than 5 seconds behind Vettel now. Sainz and Verstappen both pitting, because the track has gotten damp. As predicted, this was the period where I saw that coming, right? Ooh, it's early for that. It's early for that. Huh. The intermediates may be the way to go. If that's already happening, I think our time on full wets is going to be less. Yeah, that's a lot of cars in. Alright, you know what, we've got an advantage, we don't want to lose it. So Albon, still 9 seconds ahead of Sainz. He lost 1 second on that lap, that was all. And Porsche comes back out in P12, still ahead of Gasly, and closer to Vettel than he was. So that worked out. And I think track-wise, looks like that expected dry out has been more dramatic we will get some rain again, but it's going to be temporary. And if the track is going to be drier, I would think that the track will not get quite as wet.
It's a spin!
Russell with the spin. Okay, not us. Alright, and you can see we can drive aggressively until the track is dry. So we're going to stay like this. Good. We're good. And it's now P11 for Pourchaire. Somebody has gone backwards. Or is that where we were after we got around Gasly? I think Russell in P13 was ahead of us, right? So I think Russell pitting a little bit later has cost him a position. And Pourchaire is now less than 3 seconds behind Vettel, so we are closing up on him and pulling away from Gasly. Very much giving me the impression that we will be competing for points today with Pourchaire, despite that massive setback that cost us roughly 24 seconds. Where are we at now to our teammate? 33 down now. So again, battling has cost us a little more, or we just simply have less pace. But remember, I think ultimately it was about 25, so we'll round that off anyway. We lost 15 seconds, held up on pit road. We lost 3 seconds for the double stack, so that was 18. Okay, and then we ended up at 25, so we lost.
Looks like there's been a lockup.
Magnussen with the lockup, already behind us. All it did was drop him down a position or two as Russell gets around Gasly. We're now 12 seconds ahead of Sainz, by the way, so we're pulling further out. And then Pourchaire, just 1.7 behind Vettel, inching his way up there. Track, the expected dry out is coming.
So it's not raining in the pit lane.
Oh, hello, rain has stopped. We're already on the intermediates, so that part's good. It'll be the dry compound right as it gets to right about the crossover point for 1.0. Verstappen's going to pick up a penalty.
It's a
So
collision.
he was one of them.
We can take a look now. Okay,
And
here's
apparently
the
the
Ferrari.
cause, it's the Ferrari, it's Leclerc that he's going to hit here. Leclerc, who had just passed
And
Verstappen,
there's
by
the
the way,
collision.
so he was
It's
going
caused
forward.
absolute carnage.
Well, that's good for Pourchaire, as that's going to cost those two dearly. We're under 2 millimeters now as well. And we were, we were expecting a little more rain, were we not? We're already in that period now. So it may not happen yet. We may just dry out. Lap 40. When were we expecting to pit for the media? Oh, that's not there anymore. I can't see my expected strategy, but I was... It says that it's raining. Our weather report says that it's raining. We'll see if the track gets any more damp, but for now it's still drying. Pourchaire up to 10th. Leclerc has not pit. Will he pit, or was he okay? Tires are starting to overheat as the track dries out a bit. Half a kilogram now. So just 10 laps, we saved half a kilogram, which means, yeah, we'll be neutral well before. However, the track dries out. 1.5 millimeters now. We're going to be pushing harder without pushing. In fact, we're going to be driving neutral on the mediums, is the plan. Yeah, we need to make those last. But even neutral is still going to be faster than what we're doing on the intermediates, and therefore that won't recover quite as fast. But we're so close now. 1.6 behind Vettel, by the way. So Pourchaire not really gaining on him right now. Vettel right on the heels of Alonso, 1.3. And it says it's supposed to be raining right now, but it's clearly not. It looks like it is going to be dry going forward. Let's go back
No
with
more boxing this lap.
Pourchaire. 1.05. Yeah,
Yes, okay,
it's
boss.
not too soon anymore. 1.03. Nobody else's pit, so we are the first. We are the first dive into pit road. But there you go, 1.00. There's the timing for Porsche. The timing is perfect. How much will
It'll be dry.
he gain back?
Okay.
He's definitely going to go aggressive on this outlap. .589. It's a good stop. It's a good stop. It's not a great stop, but it's a good stop. And we're going to come out still in P12 ahead of Joe and Magnussen. And we are going to push. Just aggressive for now. Oh, come on. Why are they going past?
Register
no.
lift and co.
Why are you still going backwards, Porsche? It's too late for Albin to cancel. Nobody else has pit yet.
That's a position gained
right
for
now-
Alpha Tauri.
Right now, Guan Yu Zhou is driving faster than we are. Alvin goes in. 2.568. About getting those tires up to temperature. He's on the softs. He's not going to make it to the end of the race on the softs either. Ooh, we're going to be keeping an eye on that one and see who else may fall under that strategy window. Perez still does not pit. Oh, Albin has caught up. Albin has caught up to him. Use the overtake. I don't know if he's going to pit yet. Let's check in. Okay, he's going to settle in now. Albin for the race. O'Shea was still pushing on. Got Alonso. That'll still ahead of us.
Drop back.
Going to help pull us up a little bit further. And we're past Leclerc.
You're doing very
Leclerc
good.
had
Lap time are
potential
good.
damage
Are
as
good.
well. Oh, couldn't quite get Vettel there. Vettel's on softs. Vettel's going to have to pit. Everybody's going to have to pit. They're not going to make it to the end of the race on these. The mediums are only going to just do
Someone
it.
spun out.
Of Stroll a lap down. 4 cars lapped down. That's Albin, who has lapped them. Sainz is getting closer. So he's on the softs, we're on the mediums. He is faster. We're going to watch that gap come down, but meanwhile we're going to keep an eye on
Alpha Tauri
Porsche
gained a
as he
place.
actually has racing traffic. So a P1, P8, very much on for a P7 at this point, and possibly a 1-2 finish if we have made the right strategy call of going to the mediums and everybody else has not. For now, Sainz inches closer, now less than 10 seconds behind. That's an awful long distance to cover.
Looks like that was a position gained for Alfa Romeo.
And actually, Alonso, more than a second behind Vettel, and Vettel had DRS a second time. That doubled. So, what you have at the Hungaroring is down the main straight. The detection zone just before it is used not once but twice. So, you have the main straight, long DRS zone, and then you come around that mostly hairpin turn 2. And then, turn 1, and then that slight turn 2, and right at turn 2, you have, actually I think it's even just before it, you have another DRS zone, but it uses that same detection zone back at the end of the lap. So that back-to-back cost us massively. We are ahead of Alonso now, and, oh shoot, there's the detection zone. It's too late. It's too late. We're going to miss DRS, and then Alonso's going to get it. If I would have noticed this sooner, we would have pushed. Either way, though, let's try to close this down. Oh, then Vettel had a problem. Vettel had a problem. He ran wide right after we passed him.
Seems to have been a lockup.
He locked up. So going into the turn, maybe he was trying to drive a little too defensively. And there you go. We have now ditched both Alonso and Vettel. Vettel, who set the fastest lap while making his overtake on us, I believe. But he is down to P9. Alonso is now 2.5 seconds back in P8. We are 4 seconds back, though, of those in front of us. 2 laps later, Alonso is now more than 4 seconds behind, and we are holding at about 3 seconds behind Ricciardo and Norris. And Albon, his lead is actually growing once again. It's now at 9.8. I believe this is now the soft compound is starting to fall off a little bit. Ocon with a spin, and we're up a position. Pourchaire is P6. Yeah, those guys are at 50%. They're going to end up pitting. I mean, there's 12 laps to go. And if they don't, we're going to fly past them anyway. I mean, we're already starting to gap these guys with 12 laps. 13 laps, really. Soon to be 12. Norris dives into the pits. There you go. 10 laps to go. He realizes he is not going to make it. How many are going to stay out there without pace? And how many are going to do what they have to do, like Norris, and pit, put on used softs to get to the end of the race, now in P10 for him. So that's Pourchaire into P5. Perez now does the same. He dives into the pits. And Pourchaire will come out ahead of him as Perez comes off of pit road. Will not catch back up to us, not from that far down. And we're up to P4. Sainz and Ricciardo at 38%. And Pourchaire is catching up to Ricciardo, I think, fairly quickly here. Sainz stays out. And we have gone around, we got around Ricciardo already. There you go. There's Ricciardo behind us. Let's get a replay of that overtake.
Now we see the
This was on the straight. I turned the engine up just at the beginning of the straight, or just before the straight, as I saw we were in a good position. And there it is.
Gaining a position.
Albon has lap bow test now, by the way, and is just behind. Why don't you show somewhere? Maybe just lapped, because that's Verstappen. We're on the verge of lapping Max Verstappen. Carter 1.6 down, Ocon pits. .8 seconds and growing. Looks like Ricciardo's just going to try to stay out. No, he's pitting. Alonso picks up a penalty as he has crashed into someone else. Ricciardo gives up his position, and Perez is now third.
Now let's look at this. The focus on Tsunoda.
Alonso and Tsunoda. Alonso gets to the inside and then crashes.
Oh no! And there's the crash. Mark
The two
my
come
words,
together.
there'll be questions asked about
Hard to say
later.
that was actually Alonso's fault on that one. And we are already coming back out down the straight as Pourchaire just crossed the start-finish line. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Not that fresh. Not that fresh on those softs. Stroll pits. Look at that. Pourchaire's the only one out there on the mediums. 8 seconds is the advantage, by the way. And we are 9 seconds. Oh, no, we are not 9 seconds ahead. We are less than a second ahead of Sainz. Sainz is flying up on Pourchaire.
Reduce the lift and co.
We will use the defender when he gets a little bit closer, but second place may not be guaranteed just yet. Perez is also close. Norris is also close. That's 3 cars. Pourchaire could still finish in 5th place here as Albon goes to begin his lap. So let's go ahead and go deploy, fuel up, aggressive, see what he can do for the fastest lap as Pourchaire trying to defend.
I think there's been a lockup.
Keep an eye on sector times with Albin, as there we go. Pourchaire is down to P3.
Full deploy.
Yes.
So mediums didn't quite get us there. Go aggressive at this point, might as well.
2 laps to go.
Albin just green sector 1, so he's not purple.
So 1 more lap.
Last lap, not fastest. Last lap, but not fastest. That's okay. Pourchaire, meanwhile, hanging on to P3. Only just... Yeah, he's going to end up P5. Oh, and he backs out of it, too. So, yeah, P5 it is. P5 it is. That's okay, though. That's still a good recovery from Pourchaire. And meanwhile, Albin takes a whole extra pit stop, and it's still going to be... And he will take the checkered flag with the race victory. It's yellow sector 3, so not enough there. But Sainz is going to take P2, it looks like, as Norris is hot on his heels.
It's a stonking lap.
And Perez is just behind. We were just told about a stonking lap. Was that fastest lap?
Checkered flag.
We do fall to P5, but here comes Vettel for P6. Ricardo for P7. He's one of those guys that pit that we beat a while back. That's surprising that we lost that much ground at the end with Pourchaire. He was just well off pace once we fell below that 50%, which is why it was a good thing that we tried to prolong that 50% a bit more. Our strategy did pay off ultimately as we move forward quite a bit. That second pit stop cost everybody else. Pourchaire would have been P8, P9, maybe P10. He ends up P5. Albin ended up winning the race. Big time victory for Albin. It was actually really surprising that we managed to improve the performance of last season with both drivers, as Albin finished P2 a year ago here in the rain. This year he gets P1. And Pourchaire much improved from a year ago, barely on the lead lap, right at the tail end of it, and I think 17th to get almost a podium.
I
Came
couldn't
up
agree
a
more.
couple
It
laps
just
short
shows what this
on the
team
tires,
can do
but
when
5th place,
all the
pretty
pistons are
solid.
firing.
At the end.
That last lap was the quickest lap of the race. Albin just took it there right at the end. So that paid off. We got a bonus point as well. We end up with 36 now instead. And for that, we're about 50 points behind Verstappen with Albin. A race victory plus over Pourchaire, who was only 5 points ahead of Sainz, but at least he's still there. And in the Constructors, closing right up on Red Bull. Wow. 40 points ahead of Ferrari, though. It's tight for the top 3. And definitely past halfway, 13 out of 22. We're at a stage now where I'm starting to go, hey, I think that top 3 is very much secure. And we've got ourselves a battle, but we're on the losing side of it right now, except for with a performance like that to keep us alive for potentially better than 3rd. We'll see what happens at the end of the season when we're that much faster, but how well can we hang on for the next 2 to 3 races before those new parts become available. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.